I see that you're working in Slovenia, and what exactly are you studying, or what is your research area?
Yeah, now I'm researching the consumer history in Slovenia and Japan in the 60s. Yeah, and before PhD, I finished a master study in University of Ljubljani. That time I'm researched that Communist Party's policy in the 1670s. Then I continue researching here. Yes.
Really interesting. I mean, to see someone from Japan interested in another continent, and especially a small country like Slovenia. So I was wondering, can we explain how you came about? Was it the communist regime or some kind of yes, other type?
But actually, first time I came to Slovenia like 2008 as exchange student. In that time, I learned a little bit Slovenian language and history too. Then I'm so interested, all knowledge or information new for me. And when I come back to Japan, I continue to study. I would like to. But in Japan, it's little material, and it's really difficult to continue study. So I follow my wish, or then I decided to apply this. I was looking for some place to continue to study, and then I arrived in Slovenia. Then it's really interesting because just different from Japan, language, history, culture. That's why I really, interested. No?
And besides this different culture and totally different type of conceptual features of Slovenia, do you think that your research is actually can be valid for Japanese culture in a sense? Can this comparison of the consumerism types, I guess there are different types of consumerism in both countries, can you actually gain some new insight on a larger level, on a larger scale?
Differences consumerism in it's I don't know this well, in generally people's wish desire the same, like more and more and to buy, but this style of consuming is different. Like I think in Slovenia also limited material before, but they could get in Italy or Austria. It's really flexible, but Japan is geographically isolated, so we had to import or connect it to more other country, and that's why it's more, in capitalistic system is also really influenced Japan. So this speed to gain the material, this is really different, I guess. I feel so.
Of course, when you're studying the 60s, as you said, yeah?
Yes.
The difference was the Japan was heavily under the influence of USA. That's a big difference, I guess.
Yes, and
can you see the influence of the Western culture on Japan? Do you study that also? Some changes in traditional values? I mean, that's kind of ambivalent, isn't it?
Yeah, I think culturally not. I mean, cinema, music, and fashion, get influence from Western, but like family role or women's role, it's not yet.
Yeah.
We are still traditional. This also for me, big mystery. Yeah, but my same age researcher told me they're studying in Japan. It's like young generation slightly accepted like Western way, family role and equality, this level of influence they get. Yeah, but in the 60s, just we get system, materials, like a trend, got influence gradually, yes.
I mean, and there's one thing I'm really curious. I mean, as a proud nation, Japan was, and after the Second World War, obviously, Japan lost its power, partly its independence. How was it in sense of feeling? Did the people sense this rejection of foreign influences, or did they actually pragmatically embraced some of the technologies? Of course, we see that, you know, you are technologically more advanced. Of course, what do you think happened in terms of the emotions, and is there something really specific with regards to Japanese culture in the sense of this ambivalent position of being exploited, sort of like, or inferior, but still being able to come on the top, sort of like?
After the Second World War, of course, we got atomic bomb. We had huge damage by West America, let's say, but surprisingly, we obeyed American system during the occupation. Actually, America introduced us democratic government system and the new technology, and they gave us to use the new technology. It's so sad because since Korean War started, America ordered many machine or textile from Japan. That's why we could develop the economically so fast. And actually, but before the war, we like American culture, but because of propaganda, we Japanese people prohibited to listen music or talk about that. So maybe emotionally, maybe some generation just sad, but young generation is less emotion but toward hatred of America. No, because they like it. Then, so it's like simply, we Japanese society and government people could accept Western American system, and it's because of this we got really good life. Nah? So it's really, it's really strange or not normal process we experience, I think.
I'm working at Reki University, Department of Cultural Studies, and I'm interested in sort of like conceptual networks created by our communication. So, or religion, or all these philosophical reasoning that's beyond here and now, sort of like beyond primal type of communication of animal type. So I guess it's a lot area to cover, but I'm sort of like a linguist doing the conceptual thing and trying to get into the cultural depiction of conceptual system. So, for instance, if you take some values that we all agree, like a marriage, for instance. So, marriage is one type of thing, so or one phenomenon, but you can see that lots of different cultures define it differently. So who can marry who, and why you cannot be married to this guy or that lady. This is all sort of like culturally determined. And in process of determination, sort of system, conceptual system or cultural system, some words are used, and my analysis goes into what type of words are used in order to frame the conceptual system. So when I say, for instance, that marriage is a basis of society, so that means there is some kind of structure, and it has its own particular roots. And if you take marriage away, and in certain sense, this can be shattered. The whole society would be shattered. And then if you connect the marriage to concept of man and woman, sort of like you cannot have a marriage with two men or two women, sort of that would shatter the structure of the society. So you're framing the concept of marriage in a sense with other words, and this is actually some theory that's called the conceptual metaphor theory, and it's very heavily used by many scholars from cognitive linguistics, and it's starting to grow into other areas like this cognitive politics, you would say, or cultural cognitive linguistics and analysis. There are other types of maybe even plainer, just to finish the marriage. How could you actually see it from different perspectives? So if you're a homosexual, sort of like, and you would say, you would like to say that there is other ways of being married, and if you're faced with this stable conceptual frame of building, then how would you approach? That's actually how it was. So you cannot deny that it's a frame of very stable thing, man and woman. So they actually say marriage is it should be a warm thing, something of that kindness. You should have some sense of understanding. And if you look at the data, of course, half of the marriages are between men and women are failing because they're lacking the warmth, they're lacking the understanding. And you could pitch that it's more important to have warmth in the relationship and understanding, and therefore this could be framed as a perfect marriage. So in this sense, you're kind of perspectivizing or framing the same thing, but you have different outcomes. And actually, this is what I think happens to one around us, in different types of agreement. When we agree on something, and this is actually my kind of research area, and for that I use a large corpus, data that are gathered from vast internet domains, and
sorry, but your covered area is only, Europe or Asia, or how to say, which area you target?
You mean which language?
Language, people.
For the most time, I usually do the Croatian language. This is actually native language, and we have also unsettled issues here. But of course, most of the theory was based on English, and the large resources for this type of analysis, the corpuses, the tools for linguistic analysis, all these post-taggers, blah, blah, whatever, you have it on English. So it's kind of natural that we all use the English. But of course, slowly, I know my colleagues from this area are developing and all necessary tools. So we are slowly, building our research more and more in our language. And of course, I think this is the situation for the most areas in sciences. You have the large, in linguistic sciences, that is, we have the large support for English because it's a wealthy language. It's socially determined as a lingua franca. So the most affordable researches are done in English because you can pay off. You can make your research be valuable for some company. For instance, I don't know. That will determine some kind of sentiment analysis for your company and such stuff. Yeah.
I mean, geographically, okay, first I researched in Japanese language about Slovenian history, ex-Yugoslavian history, but they focus literature like diversity. But the diversity means for us it's wow, wonderful, how the people can exist with different language, religion, how they can continue like more a long time. But some people, foreigner, also criticizing this diversity and this politicalism. Also, we from capitalistic point of view, communist regime and socialistic stuff is really negative connotation. But when I came here, I read many material like written in English by Slovenian author or a Slovenian article also, and like Slovenian authors' books. But it's sometimes people really accept this communist regime. It's good, and many people missing this system. It's really how do you say? When I read foreign authors' books, I get all the time new information and open up my new point of view, which points I should look, and this more me creative to think to connected fact to fact. But sometimes I lost, but all the time repeating this process. So I really interested into read foreigners authors. When I study Japanese history, I really love to read foreign author too. So really, this environment currently I'm here, really grateful for research. This is my opinion.
And in which language do you like to publish?
Me?
This is also very...
Yeah,
You're doing some research, for instance, on Japanese culture, and you do your research paper in Japanese. But I cannot stop.
Yeah, but English is the best for both, because I want to, if I research, I want people to know what I do, and I want to get all opinion, negative, positive, everything. So for me, English, I would like to publish from now and forever. But sometime I would like to write Japanese too, because this research area is, not popular in Japan. So I would like to promotion to my mother language. Maybe I can write more fast, and it's in Japan only for Japanese people. But I would like to my mother language too.
Because in Croatia there is, and obviously for philological research papers, it's very, very important to write also in your own language, so mother language. Of course, we are small people, like we have 4 million people. That's a suburb of Tokyo, I guess. And we have to maintain some level of proficiency, even the scientific proficiency. So the question, of course, is very, very engaging. When you have so much time and you have this expectations from the community. You have to be visible on blah blah blah, and still you have also expectations in our field to write in language, for the sake of the future creations. Maybe they would like to know about their language in their language, not in English. So in fact, there's also this question of I guess I see your point. I would like to also be read from a guy in Ukraine, in Japan and stuff. But of course, the expression on English is, for instance, not my native language. How do I know it's the perfect expression of my thoughts? That's one question. And the second one, as I said, for the future generations. So what is your thoughts on expressing everything that you want to express in foreign language? Do you feel somehow stuck, or I don't know? Here's my point. I don't have the word for it. Contained, maybe, I don't know.
Well, of course, English or Slovene is not my mother language, but for, let's say, career, and when I think the future, for me, Japanese people also need foreign language skill we must open up. Japanese problem, I guess, island and even researcher can't use foreign language, and this really limited to open up research society, community, and many less people go to conference foreign word. For me, it's sorry, because they know, but they can't share if you don't know language. Ne? So for me, it's really difficult, and all the time take time and struggling, frustration, but for me, really necessary. So I don't know how to say. I have to keep working to. The language, ne? Difficulty.
You're determined. I see that.
I don't think so. I have no choice. But I think Slovenian people use a lot of foreign language to publish English article a lot. So this, gave me great motivation to do it, because English language for Slovene people also are not mother language. They're really good at it, but still not mother language. So that's why, Slovenian researcher gave me good motivation to it.
Just one point. I think for us, maybe it's easier. Easier in a sense that scientific language is not poetry, or it's not
a
level of fiction or whatever. So there are certain patterns that we have to kind of embrace and then give the data away.
So more simple. It's.
I guess the next topic.
For me, just curiosity, like finding. When I started research, I didn't think to contribute society or change the world and, want to be professor or nothing, but I just curious. And this biggest motivation is curiosity. And when I started, I really love it, like it. So still continuing. How about Benedikt?
Yeah. Well, I started from some personal story. I was involved in certain practices like meditation and yoga, which was popular in the 2000s, end of 90s, and it's sort of like dawned to me that language has a lot to do with the state of the mind and how we access the experiences from the world, how we categorize those experiences. And I wasn't a linguist. I'm not particularly good at linguistics as such, proper. I would deny that if you ask me. But of course, I think this gave me a sort of like intrinsic motivation to do the stuff and to connect the system, linguistic system, you know, the structuralist system of, you know, cases and blah, 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 with some stuff that's out there. And of course, people have been doing it. And I saw this cognitive linguistics, the cognitive science as such, was actually about the integration. And I was like, wow, this is what I need. This is, you know, this some kind of out of the box theory, which actually can help me to understand what I'm doing in my life. And that was also, you know, inspired by curiosity. I mean, is it so? Is it like this? Do those, you know, there are fancy theories from the theology, like, you know, everything started from words. So yeah, I mean, could be, it could not be. What's it, you know? But then you have the other guys from evolution theory, and then you start to see, oh, we started using the words only, you know, a few thousand years ago, or a few 100,000 years ago. So in a sense, the scientific insight that I gained through some kind of methodological approach were revealing, in a sense, because I had some kind of personal, you know, motivation and experiences and stuff. But every methodological improvement that I see from, you know, other scientific point of view is actually some kind of new food for my quest for knowledge, and this is how I see it. And of course, we have to eat more.
Okay.
Satisfy all this. And you know, I think we live in especially good times, because I can speak to you. You're from Japan, and you know, you're in Slovenia now. I can download the books from, you know, which server in Russia. Sort of like everything is 2 or 3 clicks away. So that's very, very interesting.
Yeah.
Of course, you know, I would deny that I have some, you know, books on my laptop which are not legal. But of course, this is actually what knowledge is for. We have to promote this kind of openness and connectedness, and still you have to, of course, obey the rules in a way that we all live from the buying books, or you know, those authors live from the honorars that they give. So I think this is the problematic question: how the scientific community actually acquires the money, and what is the point. But I guess this is another topic, in a sense, that we're dealing, and the role of, you know, the research methods. And of course, another point, we're living in times where there's no actually it's not book-based anymore. You have resource-based scientific community. You know, you have these great applications that you can acquire the information, and I'm kind of very, I would say, positive about it, you know. And you can gain as much knowledge, and then what do you do with that kind of, I would not say knowledge, but you can gain data, and what you do with your data is actually you turn it into knowledge. And this inspiration is actually quite you know, the process is inspirational, because you don't have to, you know, spend 10 years collecting the data. You can spend 10 years of gaining insights which could really enhance the next level of scientific you know, understanding of the world. And I hope we will get there. I mean, to see the world in a scientific perspective. And how about you? What is your how do you come to data in Slovenia?
Data. It's history is archive is important. So to research Slovenia and Japan, I have to go there first. I can check some internet. Of course, I can get what they think about the fact. But as history first, I have to get original one. Let's say M60's one is magazine, like fashion magazine, and I can see the consumer history. Or I go there. We have institution, and I will touch the original. And this repeating archive time, original time, resource, and try to solid my understanding, creativity. So actually, really physically have to be active to go there and computer and to, but sometimes I also got just information. I can't process. So what? So I have to think, and sometimes working around and keep continue. Then finally I can understand one, how to say, thing. Nah? It's really step by step by step by step.
Yeah. And do you think this is another question of you know, spreading the knowledge? Do you think is possible that you can actually spread the knowledge that you gain by your, you know, traveling here, there, all this network conceptual? Can you actually, you know, convey it to, you know, some lay person? Is it possible?
To spread knowledge? Maybe I can. I talk and how do you say? I mean, I think it's possible. Not that.
The question is actually by just doing the, you know, all this paper stuff. You publish a paper in good scientific magazine. Do you think it's enough?
No. Not only magazine, but to talk and share. We have social media. We can write more. How do you say? Not for academic person, but for like my family level. Like my mother, just difficult to understand what I study. But to spread knowledge in this context should be more. Use many methods. Magazine, of course, journal, of course, or publish like internet, newspaper, everything. Then more people interested in our research and how do you say more knowledge, and more. I think this turn to our research society positive way. So it's difficult.
If I may start, I think the question of creativity comes through hard work. I mean, hard work by structuring some knowledge that you have in one dimension. So like you have a question that's bothering you, but then you have to crunch the domain that's, for instance, knowledge about how to express emotions. Okay, so I think the question is express, then I have the domain of language, so I have to know everything about linguistics, what the language is about, and then I have to do it by gaining insights into emotions and what are those things. And when we see the problem as a real world problem, then we have this interdisciplinarity. Immediately we have this interdisciplinarity opening up. And this is actually where slowly we can expand the research methods in terms of gaining methodological approaches from different perspectives. And then you have this perspective 1, you have perspective 2, which is actually quite different. Maybe the terminological part, the method, everything is different. But then how to connect those two things, this is actually quite creative process. Yeah. And for the most part, it's involving talking to other types of scientists. For instance, I talk as a linguist with you, historian, or we can connect in some ground. That's the point. For instance, I could say that, okay, history is a part of memory, so you have the cognition part of it. So you say, and then how to connect memory to language. And then for me, it was quite insightful to have an overarching theory, and I found this system theory, which is actually great stuff. I would really, in terms of ontology or epistemology, I don't see. I'm a believer in a system theory. That's my part. And when you see what it says you have layers of complex networks. So there's order in terms of perspectives, even scientific perspective or disciplines. So in terms of how to be creative, you have to be you have to state what is your epistemology, how do you see the world, and not be I see it on this like that, and then I believe in God suddenly, and then I don't. Kind of way to mess research up. But you can actually state what emerges from what, and then you have, I think, this is for me creativity. Creativity in sense of when new technology emerges in totally different field, I can use it and properly implement it into my discipline. Sort of, I don't know if that's creativity or not, and this is how I see it. What about you?
Creativity, but okay, like as you said, it set my mind how to this is for, I really agree, but maybe to be creative should be more open. I'm historian, but I use sometimes anthropology method, sociology method. Then sometimes came up, I could use new method. What do they think? Then this is really good. I actually in this master or doctor program, I have to take another faculty course, and I all the time choose anthropology because they could do field work and how to use the memory and how to do interview with different language people. This is really open up how to research, because sometimes this is really difficult to work interview with other people, how do you say, ask the past, for her or him, negative or positive, how I can conduct interview. But in the anthropology class, I could get some skill, maybe technique, and plus I have to apply this skill. But this, to know that how new method, it's really open up how to research and really helpful to connect to the fact, like event to event, how to use a material, actually to read between the line also. This is really, it was really good. It was a good experience for me to use other methods, sociology and anthropology. It's
so using others to implement for your stuff.
Yeah.
That's the way. Yeah.
This was helpful.
But of course, there are many problems in in this type of interactions, because of people from different disciplines, they see different problems.
Yeah.
And sometimes the methodologies are not applicable. And this is
sometimes,
actually my you know, I was as working at the cultural studies, they have definition that they are interdisciplinary. But you know, for some persons, this is just a, you know, interdisciplinarity between, I don't know, his history and I don't know, how would you say, linguistics is not that far away. Okay.
Oh yeah, no. Yeah.
If going on biology and, I don't know, sociology, I think this is actually interdisciplinarity of a larger scale. But can they actually even speak in terms of that they want to solve some problem? And that's sometimes this involves a larger picture, which is actually some kind of philosophical point, and then you have to speak with philosophical people that, you know, when you say emergence, they say, oh, what emergence? Ontology, oh, what emergence? It's very hard. But I think with your own research project, and when you establish some kind of paradigm for yourself and you're more confident, then you can speak to anyone. They can be even dismissive, but you know, this is some kind of old school, I think, leftovers, you know, and slowly the science is moving actually to really some kind of interdisciplinarity, which takes into account this different perspectives and enjoys the complexity and different perspectives, not you know, bashing it, so sort of like
complexity.
I hope.
Me too.
I mean, you are much more interested in that domain than me, so maybe you can start. Yeah.
Me?
Yeah.
Working in general, researcher here. I mean, I only work in Slovenia, but really flexible, and in the school, how to say, flexible and free, and less hierarchy, so I can be free talking about what I think, you know, and really they have a comment like good or bad, and this is honest. They don't care the hierarchy. This is really good for me, more free. But when I come to Japan, I, how to say, a little bit polite and how to say, less free. Ne? Then, yeah, and like, but for foreigner to work here as a researcher foreigner, I faced the difficulty. Language, of course, and some visa stuff to get research assistant position also. It really takes time, and how to say, visa also. And yeah, for foreigner it's a little bit hard to be to work as a researcher, but it doesn't mean people are unnice or bad, just let's say system problem, I think. Yeah. And I don't know, to work, like I can compare to Japan, but like any information, like calling this position, or they have conference or inter-exchange program, it's really, I have to check. I mean, in Japan, this advertisement everywhere, like when I work in the school, I don't know, and some journal articles, newspaper, I can find such information. But in Slovenia, I have to ask people to check all the time, faculty web page. So
see, there are differences between countries, and of course differences are also between disciplines. So I feel very lucky here at on the cultural department level because of this declared interdisciplinarity, which actually gives me the opportunity to be with colleagues from different fields, and in a way they are also appreciating my different point of view, and this actually gives us opportunity to freely speak about the problems, and in terms of research, that can actually be quite useful because we can collaborate together and not be competitors. This is very, very useful. And as I said, in other disciplines, in terms of disciplinary hierarchy or structure, here in Croatia, for a certain type of discipline, it can be very hard. Of course, I don't think it's very different anywhere else in the world. You have this competition, and still we have even, we're enjoying some kind of leisure time. It's starting to be more and more harsh. You have to write so much and so it's only starting here in Croatia, as I see. And I think we are now in the sweet spot because we still have the freedom to pursue our own scientific questions. Can and or should be related to some real world problems, and we are not, yet determined by the agents outside of the scientific community, for instance, industries and blah blah blah. That can be very helpful in terms of giving grants and money, but they also restrict your own results into what they want actually. There are examples that don't want to be specific really now, but for instance, a project that we have, like this Croatian metaphor repository, is actually quite free to do whatever metaphors, domains it wants. And I have to say that we become one of the largest repositories of metaphors, and it's open. And then you cannot see that in English because they were founded by DARPA. And they had some specific issues they wanted to know about how you frame poverty, how So in terms of our scientific freedom, I think we are still here, but the money is less and less. It's shrinking. So the necessity for some really product-based research is growing. I don't know where it would lead us, but of course I think it's a welcomed change because we are not stuck in the old-fashioned research. This pushes forward. It's very important to have the balance of those two, to have the connection with the real world problems and solving it. We have that kind of stuff, especially on the humanities, where people think those guys from humanities and social sciences, they're just dealing with some nonsense. Of course, it's nonsense if you're writing for 5 people and if you're really stuck in the old paradigm of not being disciplinary. I agree totally, but enabling people to see the different perspectives and to see how actually the social world and humanities are built from the basic this natural sciences STEM is very important. I think it's even more important than having the best cell phone, you know, the best computer. What will you do with it, you know? But of course, the connection between, and in terms of, you know, to end up to the different scientific communities have different types of systems, as you call it. You know, we have this more loose system, and then in Japan, I guess you have the hierarchy that's kind of coming from the Confucian system, I guess.
Yes, yes, exactly.
And, but the problems are everywhere the same. You know, the amount of the you know, really curiosity for knowledge,
yes,
opposed to the, you know, curiosity to sell products. And I hope that the future will favor the some kind of equilibrium. Yeah, so we can still be curious about non-profitable stuff. That will be profitable maybe in next generation, you know.
No, our generation must be profitable.
There you go.
Yeah.
Thank you, Yuki. It was really nice to meet you.
Really nice guy. Thank you. Okay.
And hope to see you in Slovenia, in Ljubljana, or come to Reka. You know, why not?
Yeah, why not? I will.
Please, Yuki. I mean, your perspective will be welcomed here on the cultural studies. We have guys that are working with consumerism, with really, you have to come.
Nice, I will. Let's make plan.
Yeah.
Great, amazing. Nice to everything.
Thank you. And
thank you.
Have a nice day. Bye.
Have a nice day. Ciao.